Hey guys, it's Baileywiki, and this is the release video for this month's big release. You're going to see a bunch of stuff in this release. First of all, with Foundry Basic, there's a big expansion of the castle and caves systems. Lots of really high quality assets that are resizable that you can do a ton of stuff with, but also a huge push into new interactions and new effects. And I actually did a whole tutorial on token magic effects to give you detail on all of these different things. But you can see in the sample scenes just lots of different things you can do and a whole concept of plot hooks. I feel like no matter what map you're using, whether it's mine or someone else's, you're always looking for inspiration on what's going to be in that map, something incredible, something interesting, something that's going to, change the tides or just introduce more story. And so we created plot hooks so that you have the ability to do that. I also put a ton of new tiles and other things into the system, so you have more stuff to play with. And also for the Foundry Advanced tier, there's a ton new stuff in the 3D side. So we're expanding modular maps with a set of terrain tiles for creating outdoor scenes, designed to be completely compatible with other modular tile sets that you've seen from us in our 3D world. Also, just getting additional pieces as we move towards completing these first few sets. So as part of this steadily growing library of assets, we'll also be adding a few dozen more just general furniture and decorative items that you can use to bring a bit more life to your 3D maps, including a couple of animated trap pieces. And you'll see what Swift is up to here soon. You're going to see more and more from an animation perspective and more 3D content. So this really pushes us outdoors into the wilderness where you guys can do a lot more and really just kind of put together a lot of different things. Even with the assets that we've got, which is pretty considerable, you've got a lot of flexibility there. And of course, Dungeondraft, we have a bunch of new assets there as well. And you guys can see some detail on those when you jump ahead to the timestamp. But you're going to love some of the things that we're putting out with decorative items and other stuff. Also, if for all the things Patreons, we actually have a new thing we're doing. They get a taste of the first Baileywiki adventure. It's called Ghost Among the Ice. It's a fully written adventure for D&D 5e. It's perfect for winter one-shots or tying into an existing campaign. Zephyr really spearheaded the whole thing. So really excited about launching some adventures, and we're going to start it off with all the things patrons, because you guys are such great supporters of what we do. We thought that'd just be a bonus piece of content for you guys this month. Let us know what you think. We're also hoping to actually play a live game using Ghosts Among the Ice here soon. There's going to be some notable people from the community playing with us. I won't give that away just yet, but I think you guys will be excited to see us not only play our own games, but play with some people and some faces and friends that you probably know well. So with that, let's jump into the detail of the walkthrough. So let's start by what you need to install. This is a list of all the modules you're going to need. The towns module that's got all of the basic stuff. I would put in the city modules as well, because it pulls a little bit from them. FX Master, JB2A you need for a couple of things, and then Jinker's Art Pack if you want to see the bird and the rat. You don't need Mass Edit, but it's a great tool. I included it in my tutorial, so you should watch it. Definitely need Monk's Active Tiles, and Multi-Face Tiles helps you use some of that quick right-click functionality to change things around. Quick Scale and Select Tool Everywhere are just great tools to be using in general. Definitely have to have Tagger to make some of the interactions work that you just drag out. Tile Scroll makes some of the scrolling effects work, and then Tile Sort is again just another great tool. And then Token Magic Effects for sure for this. If you watch the tutorial, you'll see all of the different ways I use Token Magic Effects to create effects here. In the town module, you'll find all the town prefabs, and everything is new listed at the top with a bunch of subfolders, and just peruse through those, but import that whole folder into your world. The scene compendium has all of the scenes that are built with all of these different pieces. So check those out, import those into your world one by one as you'd like to explore them, and then delete them if you don't. And then Nuts and Bolts has all of these new macros that you can use yourself to build your own scenes, to build a bunch of other stuff, or just to see how they work. And again, check out my tutorial on Token Magic Effects to see how some of these work in more detail and how you might put them to work yourself. Now let's go through all of the new stuff. So we're going to start with the castle release. That's this big scene here. This is an inventory scene if you haven't seen these from me before. All of these larger rooms can be resized, so you can make them smaller or larger depending on what you want. And you can right-click with multi-face tiles and select the colorable version or the original artwork version if you prefer to use that. Again, the colorable version works with the Dungeondraft macro. Check out my tutorial, but you can make these rooms any color you want, including dark and black and brown and all that. All of these hallways come in both a hallway and a staircase version in case you want to create some variation in your levels and things like that. Just right-click with multi-face tiles. And again, they're all in the towns prefabs in the castle expansion set there. And just drag them out onto your scene and you're good to go. All of these portals are already set up as overhead tiles, and I just made them a tile set. I found it's just easier if you want doors in your scene because you're going to build scenes together. There's just a single door tile set. It's just a single image of them, but it actually has all 4 doors in there and already pre-configured as an overhead tile, so you don't have to worry about learning how to configure them. These are the breakaway walls. You can find them as prefabs in here. You can just use the tiles and cover up walls if you want to make an egress. But you can see with Monk's Active tiles, they're smart enough to where if you open and close that secret door, it'll break the wall for your players. And you can add other intelligence to that. All the plot hooks are here, including these trees. Remember, it's a couple of different tiles that make those trees work. You've got a lot of blood stains. These are also tintable or colorable, and you can fade them out. They come as a tile set, so you can just drag it in and unlock your tile set and move them everywhere. You have some colorable bodies, and you have this sword and stone piece here. You can add more functionality to it with matte. You just drag it out and it works like that. This is just colorable in crystal thing. You always need some kind of plot device where you have a mysterious crystal. All the bones themselves are a tile set as well. I'll come back to those levers here in a second. These are not tile sets. You have to know where they're at in the compendium to go fish them out. Here's the file path, and I put the file path above for them. And they are all colorable, but these are meant to just throw on a floor anywhere. You could be like walking around in a busy shopping center and you go into an alley and you find this hole to a frozen wasteland, or something is spawning out of it. These are, again, all colorable, so you can make them like, acid pits or just black, going somewhere at some kind of egress point or spawn point. But you can just make them whatever color your story dictates. These are floor reveals. They're also in the plot devices folder. You can drag one of them out and it's got all of them contained within it. If you click it, it will open up that tile. And the reason that you're seeing that tile is red is it's colorable, so you can match it to whatever floor you set it on. And because these are standard square tiles, they should fit on most tiled floors that you have. So here we're just changing the color of the tile and making it so it matches whatever floor we want. So you can use this on any maps, not just my maps. The goal is for these to be usable everywhere. If you right click it, you can change it to the different types, and maybe this is a staircase or something else. These are also tile reveals. They just don't have the tile that comes off the top in case for whatever reason you don't want that, or it's a tight space and you can't fit all of the artwork for that tile. So that's why they're like that. These are the same thing, but really for any generic wood floor. And you'd be surprised, you just throw these on any wood floor and it looks like it's a hole in the floor. And that's really how they're designed. And again, everything can be right-clicked. Here's some ice reveals, just like everything you saw above. And this is for if you have a rock type of environment. They're relatively gray, so you can color those to whatever rock surface that you're putting them on, and they generally will pick it up pretty well. I did include some ice patches in case you didn't really have a good place to put your ice tiles. You can just throw these things down, resize them, and throw those ice reveals on top. And you can just see where I hid them here if you click into their tile path. I have a couple of traps. These blade traps here, they come with sounds as well. They're both smart enough to be able to tap them. You need to make them smarter if you want them to cause damage or anything like that, but you can watch my Monk's Active Tiles tutorials to see how you make traps be able to inflict damage. These are just some of the fire tiles that I've created. Again, I suggest you watch my tutorial to see how they work and what they're for. But it's just lots of different ways to create fire on your maps. And when you learn about token magic effects, you can make these fires different colors and things like that. I do have a bunch of standard effects here. And if you go into the new ones that I've included, you can find like channel, the fire channels, for example, in different colors. And you just select those and apply it. And you've got a nice little thing to apply to a floor, and it makes it makes a really good effect. Check out the sample scenes for that. This skull has a lot of different variations. You can tint it and color it. So, and of course you can resize it to different sizes. And so this is just meant to be one of those flexible things where it's like, look, I just want something evil over this doorway or in this room. And that's what this is for. And you can just colorize it to match whatever motif that you're working in. See, so I've tinted and colored that. So that's how flexible this is. Here we're making it 0.5 size, and it literally cuts it in half, scales it in half. And of course, it's just a tile. You can always release it from the prefab and scale it to any size that you want, up or down. And you'll find it there in the plot hooks. Next up is the cave expansion inventory scene. These work in the same way as the other rooms. And just like the other ones, you can right-click them. There's actually 2 tiles involved. You can right-click them and go between just a solid or a liquid sort of base there. But they also have this tile that it might be hidden to you unless you right-click it. And you can see it's got other versions available. It's got lava, ice, just empty or blank so you can see through to the bottom, or it's got this colorable liquid, right? So this is meant to be used with the Dungeondraft filter to be able to give it some color in any color you want. There's also a light embedded in the prefab, so you can always remove that if you need to. But I just want you to know it's there. You might want to make some effects and things like that. But here we are. Another good thing about it being separate is you can apply separate filters to it and you get the effect just on the tile itself. That's why I created it like that. Of course, delete them if you don't need to use them in a particular map, but it's super flexible and I really like how they work. And you can find them all here in the cave expansion, the larger rooms, and then what are still called the hallways, right? And you just drag them out. And these are, because they're caves, you can really make them a lot of different sizes. So I recommend you play around with them. You'll see in the sample scenes, I've got them very large, very small, kind of everything in between. Same thing with the rest of these. They all function the same way, and they've got the separated tiles. If you notice it's a weird color, just delete the filter off of it and you'll get back to a normal color. But they work like anything else. The difference with the halls here is they don't have another variation, so you don't need to try to click on them. It's just a single variation of each hall. But again, you can resize these considerably. So these halls could be actually very large rooms. And I'm just applying the snow cover effect so you can see how that applies to any of these tiles. One of them down below is the same thing. Now we're going to apply the blood soak effect. And you can see we have a very bloody hallway. And I find it great. And you guys can use this as often as you like. Now we do have portals like in the other one. These are actually separated. You just have this one cave top. It's an overhead tile, right? You would want to come in here and just leave it as an overhead tile. Just drag it out as a prefab and it's good to go. You can resize it, or you can add intelligence to it, make it a teleporter, things like that. You can, in this way, you can build huge cave systems using this, just linking from scene to scene. Here's just an example of one of these main rooms, but with the snow cover effect applied. And you can see that looks a little bit weird. That's because that should be an ice thing there. And then these are all cave props. They're all tile sets. And again, these are colorable. And I just love how these mushrooms pick up different colors. You apply little lights on top of them and they look like a really cool magical effect. All the stalagmites. Some of these stalagmites have shadows, some don't. Some cast shadows, I should say, and some don't. You'll find them all in here. And again, they work like any other tile set. They may have one image for its representative image, but it's got all of the images when you finally drag it out. And you just want to release it using a token attacher, right? So we're going to click that little link there, hit the garbage can, and then that will release all of those tiles. Then we can cut and paste them to our heart's desire, resize them and do everything that we want to do. Those crystals are tintable, meaning You can make them any color you want. They pick them up pretty easy. Now these camps are pretty cool. They're all smart, right? So they've got Monk's active tiles making these fires work. But you can also go inside of all of these tents, and then you can change the style of these tents. I made an orcish style of the tops of these tents in case you want that kind of encounter, right? Some kind of enemy encounter versus maybe more of a human encounter. So you just right click the top of the tent, you change it, and also the bases can either be completely transparent or they can have this base. I found depending on the map you want to put them on, having the base makes them blend into the map a little bit better, but it can also conflict. So I left it so you could choose, and that way you can use these camps with any map and any map maker that you use, as long as the artwork's reasonably close. A lot of this is Forgotten Adventures, Dungeon Quill, Kaora, that type of artist. And of course, we have our fire tiles. Unlike the channels, which were more engineered channels, these are just when you want to just put fire into a space. And you can see they're just irregularly shaped tiles, so that you can see because of the transparency, as you rotate them, they just don't really maintain any particular shape. So they really do work well to just put on a scene, stretch them out, resize them. And they've all got a couple of things going on. They're tagged so that they'll light on fire when you want them to. And they also have the ability to cause damage. So you can use some of the mass edit macro stuff that I've got to disable things like that. But it's super fun. Here's the toggle fire, light everything on fire macro. This replaces my previous ones for the most part. And then watch my tutorial to see how to use it. But basically, all just kind of comes down to tags. Anything you want to light on fire, you just have to give it the right tag, whether it's something like an object light on fire, or it's a fire tile itself, or it's a light. If you get the right tag, that macro will just light it all on fire, and then you click it again, it'll douse it. So it's really convenient. So let's move into some of the new scenes. The Bloody Halls is one of the first that we'll talk about. This has the blood soak effect applied everywhere, and you can see it's got some automated interactions here. And just pieces from different sets just to help you understand. And then I also put notes everywhere. And then when you want to delete all of the notes, you can come in here on your token layer and choose to delete it. You can't undo it. If you mess up, you can always drag a new one out from the compendium. But these notes are just to point out to you, the GM, where things are happening. They are all invisible, so they shouldn't be seen by your users, but it'll help you understand where notable things are. Again, these are all modular pieces, so you can change all the stuff around. You don't have to have an altar in that room. You can have a treasure. You can have, any number of things in there. I do show you how to use some of the traps here, how they sort of deploy. Right? And again, you have to add functionality to them if you want them to automatically damage your players. Otherwise, feel free to do it manually. You don't have to automate everything. As much as they teach you guys, you don't have to make everything completely automated. Here's a nice boss fight room. I just really like the ambiance of this room. I've got spider webs as overhead tiles, and there's a little hidden body there also if you'd like to play with that or change it. But I just like this room as it creates a nice motif, pretty sinister. You can add, other effects, weather effects, things like that, but you can hide a lot of enemies underneath those webs. And, just copy those webs into other scenes. Use this stuff that I've set up so you lower your setup time for anything else. Feel free to use all this stuff, like this obelisk. Behind the obelisk is one of the new levers. And we've got a ton of new levers. That lever has a proximity thing. You have to be close enough, and if you are, it'll move that statue. And then if you open up the secret door behind it, you can see you have to be close enough to click it. Then it opens up that secret passage. Again, you can put anything in those rooms. You can change the room entirely. A lot of fun stuff here. Just to go back to show you the levers, these are based on all of our new artwork. And if you get close enough to it, you can affect the lever. I just built that in because it's hard to remember. So this keeps it so you don't have to remember. You can resize these things, make them bigger or smaller. But it's a single tile that's just smart, and it transforms, and you hear the little noise that comes out of it. You do have to add your intelligence to it if you want that lever to do something. That's where you have to understand Monk's active tiles. But we did at least the basic work for you. And again, you can put those in lots of different places, and they're just pretty effective little tools. Now, this is meant to be an approximation of the red brand Hideout from Phandalin. And this uses all of the pieces of the new set and other sets just to show you how the stuff links together. So you can feel free to come in here, move stuff around, see how all of this stuff works. But there's a lot of smart things. All these, see that table falls over when you click it. Just stuff that maybe you don't realize is in the library. I wanted to bake some things in here. But there's another floor reveal just to show you how easy those work. And so I definitely recommend that you go through and, read all of those little tips. And I'm moving that out of the way to show you there's some overhead tiles that in this case might be in your way if you want to manipulate that hole. You see this little rat running around. Again, it's pegged to those stalactites right there, but it's an effect. It's a sprite that you can peg to an entity like, here it is. And you need Jinker's compendium, and his module, it's free to be able to make that rat spawn, but it's super fun. It just roams around. It roams around the map, and as you're opening up secret doors, this rat will just scurry out and then scurry back into the walls again. I love it. Just some other examples of how you can do things. This is using a tile scroll to spin that tile, and then it's got a bunch of effects applied to it. Lots of secret doors. If you guys are familiar with the red brand, it's again an approximation. Here's another floor reveal. Easy enough to use and change. Decided to put the smithy in here, and there's another floor reveal in there. It doesn't go anywhere. You have to code it to go somewhere, but this is just giving you ideas and inspiration on how you might take a player to just a small little room somewhere. Find something. You can interact with all of these crypts, and even those skeletons. They're not set up with intelligence yet, but they're just tiles, so you can. And just like in the story, you can have them, spawn enemies and things like that as your players get close, or if they try to interact with them in any way. Just more things here. You can see how that's a breakaway tile, but it's not smart. It's just to show you that you can just have them smashed. Here's that dirty filter applied, so you can see what that looks like. There's a trap here spanning across the width of this. If your players walk into it, they'll take damage. And then, of course, we have this room that's on fire. And, I show you in my tutorial how your players will get damaged if they walk on certain areas of the room. You can see this player taking damage. To put the fire out, you just need to click that macro, and it will douse everything. And again, you can click it again, and it will light everything up again. This staircase is a tile. It doesn't have to be there, and you can move it. I want you to know that it exists because you can use it a lot with any maps. Just throw a tile down and you're good to go. Now, this is the ice cave. This shows you that ice effect, that snow cover effect that I showed you before. All of the floor reveals for the ice. If a player walks into them, and again, you can change them, but they're set up right now. If a player walks into them, they'll take damage. And you can see all the logic here, and you can change it however you like. And it just shows how you can resize these things, make them different dimensions, and kind of pepper them all over the place. Here's another one of those holes. This doesn't do anything. I put it in there as inspiration to show you that it can fit really kind of in lots of places, and you might have it be an egress somewhere. Now that cave down there, those are both overhead tiles. They link to each other and they teleport to one another. So you can teleport from this icy cave to all of a sudden your players are in this, more of a molten lava kind of cave. Within the cave itself, there's a skull, and that skull is coded as a teleporter. It doesn't actually go anywhere. You need to give it a destination. It could be another scene, for example, but it's an overhead tile, and your players can just walk under it and all of a sudden be in another area. This just shows you some of the ice option for the overlay. You can see if we change it, it really changes the ambiance of the room, but it's pretty effective. I mean, this looks like a really cold place. You can add weather to it. I think it actually has a little bit of weather already in it. And it's got some of those crystals just tinted so you can see how those work as well. And then there's ambient noise. You didn't hear it because I didn't go through all of it, but a lot of these, even that molten area has some ambient noise, some lava noises. This is the Mage's dungeon. all of that spinning stuff is invisible to players. This is an interaction where if your players click on that altar, it will make the little jewel glow, and it'll also activate that hidden staircase. If the jewel is not glowing, the staircase won't be activatable. You can add additional functionality where your players have to have a certain item. Again, you need to watch our Monk's Active Tiles tutorials in order to know how to do that. But there's the magic tree. This is a tomb. This comes from the crypts set, just to show you again how these work together. It's set up with a staircase, but if you click into that, you'll notice there's other artwork in the same folder. Now, you can't actually select the artwork from here. You actually have to do it from the Monk's Active Tiles menu. So if you go over to images, you can see that it will cycle through itself if it's active. The problem is it doesn't come active, right? And that's on purpose. Now, if we activate it and then we click on it, we can cycle through some of the other options. And of course, you can put other tiles in here as well. But the goal here is to make it customizable. So once you have it the way you like it, you can deactivate it so it doesn't accidentally trip anymore. Drag your lid back over it. You've got whatever lurks in that area. More things to do. Exposing this tile shows that there's fire under it. Maybe something that you want to do like a trap. And then if you click on this using Monk's Active Tiles, it activates all this great stuff. And if we put a token in here, we'll also hear a bunch of sound. There's overhead tiles, there's tiles underfoot. This is meant to be just like a really crazy, sudden, immersive experience. It's one I suggest you launch as the GM, as sort of a surprise as your players get in there. And then just more things to remind you of that you've got available, things that you might want to make smart or remove or add more of. Here's the fire Mage's Fire Cave. And we've got, more interactions that you've seen before, all suggestions. And, over on this side, we've got about the same thing. And then we've got some ambient noise in the middle. And we have that sword in the stone. And if we remove it, a tree, a flaming tree, emerges from the center. The whole cave lights on fire. And this is using that macro that I showed you earlier. Notice as we're doing this, though, there's a delay on that, and I want to change it. So I'm just letting you see how I correct things that I notice, right? So the duration is 1 second. I want to make it 0. That'll make it an instant. See, it sort of instantly puts the blade back there. You see the little alert at the top. It says the cave erupts in flame. It just resets once you put the sword back in. The Orc Cave, just to show you again, same assets, but totally different look, totally different feel. This cave has a boat that has a vehicles drawing on it, so it technically should be able to take your players on it, but I've noticed vehicles has been a little buggy with V10. But you'll also notice if you move a tile through the water, you hear this swimming sound, and that's because of Monk's Active Tiles. You can see how it's set up there. It uses a wildcard function, which may be new for some of you. And then we've got the camps that I showed you in the inventory scenes. And again, you can walk in any of these. They can be populated. You can snuff out the fires. And these are set in the sort of the orcish style, right? So you've got those bones coming up off the top. And there's even some smart barrels in here. You don't know how to use these. They're prefabs. I did refactor these recently. It's because Monk's Active Tiles changed. That barrel just has rum inside when you knock it over. If you're ever looking for them, just look for barrel in the Towns Compendium, and you will find all these different barrels that are powered by Monk's Active Tiles. And here's some of those colorable mushrooms working for us. Just shows you how I transition from one area to the next just using one of those cave tops. This one didn't do anything special, but just be a transition point. you can really link these things up in lots of different ways and leverage all these pieces to make huge, really good looking dungeons. Now we're looking at a ruined castle. So this is combining castle components and affluent components. These happen to be the ruined components. You can see I'm using spider webs again. And there's actually notes for the scene, but you have to take levels off to be able to see them. And, we're just seeing like a staircase. This doesn't lead anywhere. This is just to give you inspiration on what the next, map might be that this goes to. And if you don't want it to be anywhere, you can delete that staircase entirely and it goes away. Right? Other components that you may remember from other castle expansions, some really good stuff from Abominable Rob, and then a nefarious dining room with a bone table in it. And there's all the notes, and you guys can get to know this scene as well. And don't forget there's some surprises outside of the thing as well. You can turn that well into a navigation point, a teleport point. Now, this scene is a big scene. There's a lot going on. I don't recommend you play this scene unless you've got a really great computer and you're maybe virtually bringing your players in. But this is just to show you lots of different ideas all in one place. So feel free to check it out and see all of the different notes and how things are used. Again, just to help you think about, maybe you're not going to go build an entire scene like this, but maybe you'd like to see some of the things I've done and use that as inspiration to kind of design particular parts of the rooms that you do have. And finally, your Shipwreck Cave. I love this. This uses some of the Shipwreck assets from it's from one of the city districts, the docks, I believe. And this is just a really cool environment. All of these spaces are explorable. So here's like the mouth of the cave. It feels like the sunlight's really pouring in. You can hear the ocean surf. And when we walk up to these derelict ships, we find out that they actually are occupied. Here's like, a tavern, right? And if we go to levels and we see, we can right click these and we can see that we can change them from occupied to just derelict ships. So just to show you what your options are, they all have this ability to just look at like, regular wrecks or not. We got a little settlement over there, which you can get rid of again because it's all modular. And then up in the corner, we have a cave and a teleporter that's obscured by vines. And if your players walk through them, it's using the radius occlusion, they get to the secret cave. And in the secret cave, they might find that body buried there or a treasure or something like that, or it might be an egress point to something even larger and more interesting, right? So just again, showing you how all of these different pieces can be used together in lots of creative ways to make, I think, really compelling maps. So I hope you guys have fun with these. And that's it for the Foundry Basic stuff. There are some tiles also available. We used all of our Dungeondraft assets we've been building and made tiles out of them. So you'll see those as well. There might be an extra scene we slip in here before we end. But that's it for the Foundry Basic stuff. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Hi guys, Swift here again. And today I'm going to be talking about this month's Baileywiki 3D release. We've got several modular sets intended to be compatible with the stuff we've released previously, as well as another package of furniture and a few extra structure pieces. So before I go into what we've been adding this month, what I'd like to do is go over how to actually access all these assets from inside 3D Canvas. So what you need to do is go over here to the Tile Browser or Tile Controls window, and then hit the Tile Browser button, which will open up your tile browser the same as it would for a normal 2D tile. In your Modules folder, you'll find a Baileywiki 3D folder, if you've subscribed to that and installed it. And then if you click on there and then go into Models, this is where you'll find the library of assets that we've been adding to over time. This month, most of what we've been adding in has been going into Maps Modular, including the Chunky Dungeon, Exterior Terrain, and Structure Pieces folder, and the Props Artificial folder, and basically all of the subfolders in here. Though obviously we still have a whole library of stuff that we've added in prior months that's still there. To actually add something into a scene, if you find something you'd like say, let's go into furniture here and pick this bed here, you simply grab it and then drag it into the scene, and then it's in. And you can edit it as it's the same as any other 3D tile. Let me just delete that and let's move on. So I'll start with these pieces that are at the front here, which are the modular terrain tiles. So we've got some flat pieces here, obviously, but then we've got 3 sets of sloped tiles for each set. We've got one set that goes up half a tile along its length, one set that goes up a full tile along its length, and then a pair of slopes that are intended to bridge between the shallow and the steep slopes. We have a kind of sand desert version here and a kind of snow ice one over here, but really these are intended to be compatible with the 3D Canvas material browser. So the way that works is if you double right click on a tile, this semicircular button here, open material browser, will open up a window absolutely full of textures. So if we pick something like, say, gravel, and then apply that to the thing, then it should appear correctly, no stretching, no warping, and you'll be able to apply the same texture to any of these tiles without any more kind of fiddling or configuration required. So in theory, you should be able to create any sort of terrain with various slopes. So next up is this set of walls back here made of iron bars, as well as a kind of iron bar door, which is of course functional as a 3D canvas doorway just by left clicking on it. There's various different pieces that should all fit together nicely, and they should allow you to make a prison area of any size. Just behind that, we've got a set I'm calling the Chunky Dungeon tile set, because it's based on these walls that are a full tile thick, rather than being, about a fifth of a tile of the previous ones. These also have functional doors, several different floor tiles that are designed to fit the walls texture-wise, as well as this gate, which does function as a 3D canvas door, but is also animated. So if I were to go into here and then enable the animation on it, you can see that the grating there opens. Currently, in order to make good use of this, it's a little bit complicated, requires using like macros or scripting or so forth. But what we're looking into doing in the future is making some nice user-friendly ways to make use of these animations. And we'll update you on that in future as we make progress. But for now, it does work just like that. So back behind these tile sets is a set of furniture that we're adding in. There's a wide range of it here. So the thing with furniture is it's one of those things that's very important for bringing a map to life and making it seem like a real place. And over time, we're going to end up creating a huge library of things like this so that you can create any possible map in 3D just as easily as you would in 2D. That's going to be happening regardless, but if there's any particular type of furniture that anyone watching this thinks is really important that we cover, personally, I'd actually be interested in hearing from you. So any sort of opinions or feedback on furniture, props, decor, the additional things that you can add into a scene would be really appreciated. Lastly, in addition to all that, we've also got another set of staircases. We've got a short set which goes up 2 meters along its length, and a tall set that goes up 4 meters. So that's basically 1 Z level and 2 Z levels. These should fit in with any sort of tile system you've got, as long as it works on the basis of like 2 meter cubes, basically. So with all that covered, let's have a look at the example scene, and I'll show you an instance of most of these assets being put to use. Okay, so here we are in the Desert Ruins example scene, which I'd like to show you how we use the terrain tiles for this to add a bit of variety to the terrain itself. If I were to zoom way down, you can see that, for example, this tile here is the corner tile, or corner ramp tile, stretched up to be 4x4 rather than 2x2, and then plonked into place next to similarly scaled tiles. Like here's the ramp tile, here's the interior corner tile, for example. Using these basic building blocks, you can build quite a variety of terrain. Basically just hills, slopes, cliffs using walls and so forth. Basically allows for a more varied surrounding terrain, which I think makes maps a lot more interesting. What I've also done with these, for example, is used the 3D Canvas map-making compendium to add in some grass, which is distributed around the maps. So what I've done with this, for example, is I've gone into the 3D compendium, into the nature tiles, and I've grabbed a grass object, and then I've turned on the tiling, and then set the gravity on so that it all gets pulled down to the terrain regardless of how it moves. And then with settings like randomized rotation, scale, depth, and so on, you end up with a random distribution of grass objects that really makes the scene, I think, much more visually interesting. Other than that, we've just got a scene of a desert ruin here that's been occupied by some sort of force here that have set up camp. Got a small prison cell with a bed in it, as well as a bookshelf and table with some books on there. Presumably some sort of scholarly type is being held captive here. And then over on the other side, we've got some stairs leading downwards into darkness. And then from there, you can add in any sort of dungeon you like. Teleport to another map, for example. So hopefully all this is giving you ideas for what you'd like to use these assets for your own maps. Love to see what you come up with, and I hope you enjoy.
For Dungeondraft this month, we're starting off in Foundry again, this time with a host of tiles from the last release of the Dungeondraft assets. There are a variety of weapons and tools that you can use for cluttering up any scene. You'll notice that there are two versions of every asset. There is one that has already been colored and one that is colorable. You can use the Dungeondraft tint changing macro from Token Magic Effects in order to change these, like I've done here. You can select any color that you want and change the colors dynamically, or you can use one of our pre-configured options to make your life easier. All of these are available as deployable tile packs. They include paths to the actual assets themselves, so if you want to manually go find the tiles, you simply follow the instructions there. All of the equipment tiles are located within the Baileywiki Maps Premium Towns module, inside of the Maps. Then in Decor and Equipment, there are two folders, one for tools and weapons. All of the stock versions that have already been colored for you are in the main folders, while the colorable versions are in the appropriate subfolder. These tile packs are easy ways to drag out all of the different assets that you need. You can go into your Baileywiki Maps Town Prefabs compendium, and then you can go to tile packs, which are new, or you can also search tile packs. All right. Dragging out a tile pack is a prefab that contains all of the particular tiles within it and a description of the file path. In order to use this, simply drag it out and then use the Detach All Elements option from Token Attacher, and then you can safely delete the pieces that you do not want. These are intended to be handy references or ways to look at everything within a particular set of tiles. Another set of Dungeondraft tiles are the magic circles. These were added to last month's release of Dungeondraft, and now we've uploaded them into Foundry. You can see that there are different versions of these 10 different circles and different parts. We have a base version that is the same clean version of the circle. Then we have one written in blood, one smeared out of blood, one written in chalk, and one out of chalk. Then a slight glowing version that has a soft blur effect on the edges, and an embossed version. You can drop these into your dungeons anywhere you want and add some interest to your different maps. You'll notice that all of these are white. Similar to some of the other tintable assets, we've applied that same technique here with the magic circles. So all you have to do is adjust the tint color for the tile, and you can make it match whatever motif you want. Similar to the equipment pieces, these are all available in tile packs. They include all of the different circles of a particular style, or all of the parts of a particular style. They also all have the descriptor of where you can find the tiles if you would prefer to navigate to them manually. Similarly to the equipment, these are all within the Baileywiki Maps Premium Towns module, inside of the Maps subfolder, then in Decor, and under Magic Circles. And once again, you can find these tile packs within the Baileywiki Maps Town Prefabs Compendium and under Tile Packs. Within Dungeondraft, we've made some updates to the Baileywiki Assets pack. We have a lot of new ornamentation to add to all of your different designs and some levers for creating interactive elements within your map. The ornaments are divided into 3 broad categories. We have Churrigueresque, which is a very ornamented, detailed style in a high Baroque Spanish style. So this is perfect for any kind of opulent or Victorian or even some Gothic elements. All of these pieces are available both as their whole components and also as all of the individual parts, so that you can either recreate this with a varied color scheme or make your own versions of these designs. There are 3 different base designs for the Churrigueresque, and then we have Dwarven sections. The Dwarven sections emphasize mostly straight lines or a Celtic look, and again, these are available in a variety of materials and have all of their constituent parts. Our final style is Elvish. These are much thinner with very specific deliberate lines in order to replicate nature and gives curves and elegance. All of these parts are available in different materials. We have colorable versions that we can change to suit whatever look we're going for. Then we have metallic versions in copper, gold, and silver. And there's also a line version of these pieces that you can then color to suit your needs. This is perfect for if you want to add a design to a carpet or rug or similar piece. And again, this applies to not only the composite pieces, but also to all of their individual pieces. Also included are a couple of larger gold pieces that you can size up or down to add to any of these other aspects or use separately. On the mechanical side of things, there are also a collection of new levers. They come in a variety of materials from bone to metal to rock and wood, and you can use these in a variety of orientations, from top down to profile and wall mounted. All of these pieces have their components available as individual aspects as well, so you can swap out color schemes or kit bash your own levers. These pieces are also excellent for kit bashing in their own right. You don't have to just build a lever with these really great pieces. You can use them to augment just about anything that you are doing to add an interesting visual element. All of these pieces are available in the Baileywiki Assets pack. You can find all of the ornamentation within the Ornamentation pack of your assets. You can also find them featured again in overlays. The modular levers can be found under Modular Traps and Levers, formerly just Modular Traps. So you can find those right along with all of the wonderful deadly devices that they can go to. You can also find their individual pieces in the appropriate kit bash materials tags. For example, we have the levers that are wooden within the Kit Bash Materials Wood section. In addition to the asset version of the ornamentations, we also have paths. There is a simple straight line, and then 4 different pieces of scroll work that you can use to create your own magic circles or further ornament your builds and your maps. These are great pieces that can be scaled up or down for either fine detail or great architectural features. You can find all of these within the Paths tool. The first piece is the line, which we have made the AAA line so that it appears at the very top of the Baileywiki paths. The other ornamentation pieces are going to be towards the bottom of the Baileywiki section, and you can see them right there. All of these come with 9 distinct versions, which we'll go through on screen now. Each path has a black version that is clean, or the base version, and then a rough version that shows some wear and tear for any fading inks, etc. There are also 2 gray versions of each path for darker backgrounds, and they are once again clean, and a rough version for wear and tear. Then we have 2 carved versions, an embossed and an engraved, to show some height difference within the material. Finally, there are 3 metal versions, first gold, and then we have silver, and bringing up the rear are copper. All of these are really great for adding extra detail to your scenes or creating your own magic circles like from last release. Later this week, all of the Things patrons will get an early access look at Ghosts Among the Ice, the very first Baileywiki adventure. This adventure is meant to slot into existing campaigns or be run as a one-shot for newer players. As a one-shot, it's really important to me that we cover all of the major aspects of D&D, so there is some wilderness exploration, social interactions, puzzles, and multiple encounters. Within those encounters, some of them have to have combat, and others you may be able to talk your way out of, as I think it's really important to explore that balance. We really try to cover the gamut of experience here and provide a great adventure that uses some really high-quality Foundry automation pieces. Ghosts Among the Ice is going to come out in early access for our All the Things patrons later this week, and it will have its own release announcement video and a little bit of a GM walkthrough. We'll be incorporating feedback from our early access patrons and from our live play that we'll be doing later in the month before we do the full release of Ghosts Among the Ice. And that concludes our December release. There's a lot in here, so if you have to go back and rewatch sections, I certainly won't blame you. There's a lot of different things to play around with here, from interactive elements and plot hooks to fancy new TMFX filters and more, a whole host of new 3D options, finally taking us truly into the outdoors, and a lot of great Dungeondraft assets. Also look forward to that early access release of Ghosts Among the Ice later this week. As always, we want to cater our content to you, our supporters, so if you have ideas on what else we should make, please let us know in the Discord or drop it in the comments down below. This has been Zephyr for the Baileywiki group. Thank you so much for watching, happy gaming, and have a good one.